medical care is needed. When medical attention is required, we still decide that we go through the spiritual route, which is okay. There is nothing bad in that. But for us as Muslims, what I would just want us to know is this, that to say that talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslimat, that the search for knowledge is incumbent on every Muslim, male and female. That's just to tell us that any form of useful knowledge that we come across, we should grasp it. We should go out there and seek knowledge. And that knowledge, we should use it to benefit ourselves. When you have knowledge, you equip yourself. You have moved a step away from ignorance. Now, having that knowledge is not good enough when you don't utilize it. You can have a knowledge and keep it to yourself. Then it's not adding value to your life or to anyone around you if you are not sharing the knowledge and making use of that knowledge to improve your life. If someone has mental illness, they need to be diagnosed by a specialist, which means they need to see a psychiatrist. Perhaps after they've consulted with a general physician, maybe if they find that they can't see anything physiologically evident that this person is ill, they might get the referral to go and consult a psychiatrist. We shouldn't be blinded and become so religiously inclined as to be blinded to the reality of mental illness. If somebody even needs a ruqya, I don't think that's what someone who isn't qualified, like a ruqi, I think that's what they are called. You cannot say somebody needs special prayers that you feel that they are possessed until they've been certified so by a medical practitioner. So if people start behaving irrationally or out of the norm like you used to know them, a first place to start is to see if they've been through a trauma in recent time or maybe in not so long time. And if that be the case, we need to understand that behaving out of norm could be a psychological problem that will require professional treatment. Like I said, they need to be diagnosed. Sometimes, however, when someone falls into a sad, very low, if they're feeling so low, they fall into a very sad mood. It may just be temporary, it may pass. It is part of human nature. We can't be happy from morning till night. You can't be bubbly and lively and chatty all day long, 247, 366, 5 days, It's not possible. We have our lows, we have our highs, but when the lows are getting more, that is when there's a cause for concern. If you find out that someone you used to know, somebody you know well enough, suddenly drops in the mood from being happy to now keeping to themselves, maybe they are staying away from friends, families, refusing to eat, doing anything that they used to do normally, perhaps maybe their hobbies or their livelihoods, they refuse to go to work, stuffs like that. Then you might, then you can see that they're behaving out of norm, and then you can have a talk with them. And because even, in the past, I remember while I was growing up, while I was still young, I used to hear people say that, some pregnant women will go to religious places to have their babies. Sometimes they feel that they are being taunted and that there's somebody somewhere who doesn't wish them well, and they have to be under spiritual protection to have their babies. Some of them successfully have their babies. They're delivered of their babies. Babies will be healthy, so would be the mother. And that's only because there are no complications. Because if there were complications that required expertise beyond the woman just having a baby and whoever the local midwife is, if they had to have a serious complication on their hands, for instance, say maybe bleeding, excessive bleeding, they may not know how to control it. If that woman had, uh, was it like, like a situation where maybe the baby is breached, perhaps they have things they do. You understand? All I'm trying to say is that if there are no complications, then they can get away with it. But imagine if there was to be a complication that will require a trained midwife to deliver the woman of the baby and to give the mother the care that she needs at that point in time. That means that the religious reason that that woman was there in the first place would have been defeated, sadly enough. So we can't be religious bigots and think that Rasulullah taught us about prophetic medicines. If there was no need to take medication at all, we wouldn't have known how to use herbs. We wouldn't have had records of Rasulullah using herbs to heal. We wouldn't have had that knowledge. So, because our body is also an amana and we have to take care of our body. And then you can't say that God has refused to listen to your prayers because you have a type of ailment that requires medical care, and then you are trying to deal with that ailment spiritually. Everything has to work together for good. If somebody has typhoid, malaria, any form of sickness, they go to the hospital, right? Even when you get to the hospital, they give you medication. The doctors can only try. Sometimes if your faith or your belief is that, the medication you are being given wouldn't work, it may end up not working because you believe that it's not going to work. At the same time, if what you just need is a prayer to, to scale through a tough time, that's an entirely different story, on its own. That's a different story on its own. We go through bumps in life, and sometimes we hit a stumbling block. Sometimes we hit a brick wall. We don't know where else to go, what else to do. We can pray. We do the istikhara. We pray for guidance. We pray for Allah to ease our task. Rabbi inni liman zalita ilayha min yari fakirun. We do all kinds of prayers that we know. We continue to do istighfar. We seek Allah's forgiveness. All these are recommendations. But if you find yourself continually falling into a low mood, so much so that it's beginning to affect your life and productivity, there is a need for you to consult a specialist. Forget that people call them shrink, whatsoever. That's not your concern. Your concern is for you to get better. And for you to get better, you need to get the treatment that you require. So when discussions and conversations about mental illness, suicide, and all this like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and stuff like that are happening, we shouldn't turn away our faces or pay lip service to it or be part of the people that stereotype and stigmatize anyone who is having a mental illness. We need to be careful and mindful, and we need to understand that just because you claim to be a Muslim, a conscious Muslim, a devout Muslim that observes the 5 daily salat, you give charity, you do sadaqah, those things doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that just because you say you're a religious person, you can suffer from mental illness. It doesn't exonerate you, because this is about chemical imbalance in the brain. Just like you would go to see a doctor if you're not feeling well, it's the same thing. If you find that you are sinking further and further and deeper into a low mood, not understanding yourself any longer, you need help. So we need to talk about these things and not wrap all ailments and diseases and whatsoever under religion. Take, for instance, the issue of this coronavirus. We've read a bit that, we had accounts of Rasulullah saying that if you are in a place and there's a pandemic, don't leave the place. You stay where you are. And that was what happened with coronavirus. There was no movement because they didn't want people to start transporting the disease because of the way it was spreading. So imagine that somebody now says that, no, because you believe, you must just say the has come, that once you say the dua, you can move around, you can flout the rules and the regulations put in place by the government trying to control the spread of this disease. You can just imagine that. Imagine how much problem that would have caused us if we felt that just because we are religious, and then we say that once you make dua, and you say all those prayers, for protection, that you need to throw caution to the wind. No, you first of all tie your camel. Tie your camel and you rest your hope in Allah. Tying your camel is you following the laid down regulations, the precautions, the preventive measures that have been told, washing your hands, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, using soap, all those things that have been told, and to have personal distance between one person and the other person, no hugging and stuff like that. You do all that, and then you make your dua, you make the supplications. That's how it works. You walk and you pray. So we cannot be these people who would be so blinded and be holier than thou and be so sanctimonious to say that, you can be reckless with anything just because faith works after you have done the right thing. You do what is expected of you and then you leave the rest in the hands of Allah. That's how it works. So basically what I'm just trying to say is, don't be holier than thou, and don't be amongst the people who will say, this fellow Muslim lacks faith, that they don't have the iman, and that is why they are being cautious and they are following laid down rules. And we are an ummah of people who follow others. We follow our leaders. So as I say, we must follow our leaders. If there's a law that says that people must stay indoors, like a lot of people had problems when they said that places of worship were going to be closed, and that was the right thing to do. These are precautive measures that the government needs to take in order to control the spread of this virus. It's the same thing. If you are in your home, it's a different thing. You're not going outside to mingle and interact with people. So now, if you go outside, you'll be mingling and interacting with others, people you don't know who they've been in contact with. And some people came up with this theory about that being so wrong, saying that it was like they're fighting against God. I mean, come on. Come on, So you can't defend Allah. Allah defends himself. Allah did not tell us to disobey authority. So if you are doing that on your own, don't pin it on Islam. No. If you lack the knowledge, then seek the knowledge. Seek the knowledge that says that, it is incumbent on us, male and female. Once you have the intellectual capacity, you're not an imbecile. You have no excuse. If you have access to internet, you choose what you want to do with it. You can decide to say that, you know what, I've had this being said several times. I don't even have the source. I don't know where they got it from. Is it a chapter from the Quran? Is it a verse? Is it an hadith? Is it hadith could see? Go out there and seek this knowledge. Don't just sit down and wait for everything to be spoon-fed to you. So, my last appeal, I've been fortunate to go this far without coughing, so let me quickly round it up. So, let me round it up now. So my last appeal is just that we pay attention to these issues, even amongst our home people, as our brethren. If you know anyone who is been struggling, having issues, it's been a tough year, but alhamdulillah, we are still here. Many didn't make it this far. We are still here, alhamdulillah. We don't take it for granted. So for that reason, if you find anybody who is struggling and you used to know them differently, they are acting uncharacteristic of them, those are part of the signs. They still need to be diagnosed, but at least we need to pay attention to these things and not be holier than thou to say that once you've done all these supplications, then there's no need for you to say that somebody or so and so is suffering from mental illness. May Allah protect us. May Allah protect us all. So that's just about it for today, inshallah. I'll see you next week. I will be having an interview with one of our sisters, inshallah. And during the course of the week, I'm going to put up a profile, inshallah. And so take care of yourself. Look after your health. Check on your friends. Check on your families. And do the right things that you're supposed to do according to the instructions given to us on health and government regulations. They're still saying that the pandemic, is still quite prevalent in some places. Some are more fortunate than others. Nonetheless, we still have to take precautions. And ordinarily, as a Muslim, if you perform your salat regularly, you would have been accustomed to washing your hands. The only thing that's making a difference now is the use of soap and hand sanitizer. So may Allah make it easy for us. May Allah continue to protect and guide us. Inshallah, I'll see you again next week. Thank you for hanging out with me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.